What we have here is really the first true color grading tool that's been released for the photo industry. And one of the things that I know is that the film industry really understands color. People who are dedicated professionals, colorists, can spend entire careers just focusing on one aspect of storytelling, and that's the use of color. Photographers often don't have that luxury. They have to do many different things for their job. So, what we wanted to do was bring the power of film tools to photographers, which meant we had to make it easier, but we also didn't want to sacrifice control. So, you're going to see that we have a two-part workspace, which is really cool. And this is going to offer that true color grading. So, color grading again goes back to the film industry. It also is used in video a lot. And you'll hear things called lookup tables sometimes. They're basically high-end color profiles, much like how you might profile a monitor or how you might apply a printer profile before going out to a specific printer. In this case, though, they're profiles that simulate things like film stocks or color treatments or editing styles. And we give you full control to modify these. So other manufacturers do provide the basics of letting you apply a LUT. That's fine. We've gone much further with a collection of tools I'm going to show you, including tools to modify it to your own taste. And when you combine that with Radiance technology that standardizes images, you're going to see how fast and easy this is. Because unlike other tools, when you apply a preset, this works differently. I'm sure you've all tried out things like Lightroom presets and you look at the page and you go, oh, that's amazing. Or you get something forwarded to you and then you apply it to 8 images and they all look totally different. Some look okay, some not so much. And you find yourself having to move the sliders and basically redevelop the photo with each click of a preset. Well, that's not the case with Radiant. Your adjustments stay put and the color grading is a separate set of controls that are completely independent from the developing tools. So this is great. And what it's here for is so that you could do the color correction with the detailed editing tools or the quick edit tools. This is where you fix issues with exposure, color, and tone. But color grading is where you go for a unique look or a style. When you want to emphasize certain aspects of the image to make it fit for the narrative purposes, to really bring it to life. So what you're going to see here with color grading is the ability to enhance. What I'm showing you on the left are developed, finished images. I took images from a collection of photographers that were posted and marked as done, finished, ready to sell. And on the right, you'll see that we've leaned into different aspects to bring them to life, creating engaging color, unlocking an emotion. In this case, taking this a little bit of a different artistic direction to emphasize certain colors with cross-tone grading. Being able to do really compelling black and white photography. The use of looks is going to give you the best black and white, hands down. And I know some of you go back to some really extensive, powerful tools for black and white photography. I think you'll be surprised with how much you can do with this. And you can really create expressive color, leaning into certain colors or bringing warmth or feeling. And you can go ahead for retail environments and just bring out a little bit more so products pop off the page. Or unlock contrast and details by not just pushing shadows and highlights or a contrast slider, but taking the colors in the shadows and highlights into different directions that add some additional color contrast to the scene. It can provide a very modern feel or nice targeted refinements that just start to bring things to life. So I'm going to walk you through how this works and just edit a few images. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in? Let me switch on over to Radiant. And what I'll do here is just click. I'm using the standard editor here. So I'll show you pictures that have not been edited and then what we can do with them to bring them to life a little bit more. So here we go. We'll just select a few here. Good. And you can open up many, many images. We don't limit how much you could open when you're working with Radiant. So you can grab as much as you want and then bring those in. All right, here we go. Now, first up, one of the things you're going to note is we've improved the film strip. Now, instead of gaps on the side, you can mix portrait and landscape aspect ratio very seamlessly. We've also placed tools here so you can close an image if you decide you don't want to edit it, or click the save button. So, for example, you see we automatically brought this to life and the colors just look so much better. But we've also worked with a great food photographer, Nicole Young, and she's created a series of presets and LUTs that really lean in and bring out the color nicely in food. You can see an additional richness there. And so it's really nice that you can just try out recipes from top photographers to unlock your colors, but you're not stuck with it. You could easily say, just a little less saturated and back off the contrast, but lean into that color treatment a bit more. And it just looks so much more lifelike. Now, when I click the down arrow here, I can invoke a save right here. And you'll see that we've also improved the ability to precisely adjust JPEGs. We heard from a lot of users that they preferred JPEG output because they're doing a lot of quick client review, but they wanted to have full control over the compression. So we've added a compression quality slider to make that easier. And as we're working with portraits, for example, many of you have probably already discovered that our quick edit tool does a nice job. If we take a look here, you'll see that it correctly identified this as a person, and it already did many improvements to the photo, completely automatic. Remember, you have the ability to load up your own custom smart presets. So this is the only tool that lets you actually train the AI to use your own settings with scene detection. But we also include Radiant Pro and Radiant Subtle. And of course, under our detailed edit tab now, you see that it's really easy to see things. It's much simpler with just the two tools there. And by the way, cool keyboard shortcut, X will toggle you between the two tools, making it really simple to switch over. So for example, let's just take out the shadow under the eyes really quick. And let's go ahead and come down to the skin here and just remove a bit more of the shine. And you can see there that that shine removal definitely helped. But now I want to give this an aesthetic feeling. So I'll come over to color grade. You're going to find tons of options. Now, I've loaded a bunch of our additional ones available from the marketplace, but we include many different lookup tables and looks with the product already for free. We also will be shipping a special pack to our community members, so everyone who bought the product will get a bonus pack with this release. So here, for example, let's lean into some black and white photography. So we have a pack specifically for portraits that's designed to optimize the skin tones. And you see different recipes that make this easy. But maybe I want it a little less contrasty. Oh, I could just back that off slightly and get that look. And now as I go to and try out different film stocks, you see that those settings are preserved, making it very easy to keep a constant value of contrast to the aesthetic as we're working. And we can find the recipe that works for this photo. So all of these LUTs, these looks, have been designed to optimize different colors of skin for a great black and white portrait. Now, remember, Radiant really can handle tough lighting situations. Here, you see how we were able to improve the lighting in the scene. Using the detailed edit, I can easily take care of other problems. So I'll just press the X key to switch back here, and I could take a look at things like color or tone. And what I want to do is diffuse the light. Okay. So I soften the light there with light diffusion, and you'll notice that it just really takes some of the harsh shadows and evens them out. Love how that's looking. And I'm just going to put a touch of color contrast in to emphasize those details. Notice how it was intelligent to identify that the window was too bright and the subject really needed lift in certain areas. But now it's time for a color grade. We really want to bring the photo of this monk to life. For this, I'm going to lean into some classic film stocks. So I'll come down to some of our digital film looks here, and I see different issues that I can try out, different styles. Or if I come in here, I'll see color film stocks. And so with just a click, we can audition different styles. Now, here's what's really cool. One of the things we did to make this easier is we give you an Uber slider. So we did all those develop settings, but instead of having to bounce back and forth between tabs, there's a single slider here called develop that's an Uber slider. This means that you can push all of your develop settings up or down with a single slider. And so you can refine those. So if you move it 10% to the left, all of your other sliders are reduced by 10%. Or you move it 10% to the right. All of your sliders in the details panel and the tone and color panel are going to increase by 10%. So it makes it really easy to exponentially refine your edit while still preserving the relative balance between things. So it just makes it easy to fine tune that as you play with the recipe. I'm going to back off the contrast a little bit here and just put a little more color into that film stock. Again, look at the transformation. I love where this is going. But one of the things you'll learn in color grading is the concept of a power window, where you point the light to guide the eye of the viewer towards your subject. Now, in photography, we often call this a vignette, except most photo tools really haven't learned how to use it right. They just put a dark edge around the object and go, hey, that's great. And I'm sure you've all snarkily giggled or see somebody on a social media group who discovers the vignette tool for the first time and overdoes it, and then continues to overdo it for another 10 years, maybe longer. But you never want to hear this phrase, nice vignette. Well, we've gone a step further with our graduated filter. Now, we do have great presets in here, and I'll show you a landscape one in just a moment, but there's our light portrait vignette. I'll toggle that off and on. It's very subtle, but let me show you what's going on here. First off, you could place the center. So I can move this to guide the light towards his face. So now the light is guided there. I can also see the shape precisely, so I can target him nicely, adjust the feather, the angle, and you can see the exact transformation you're making as you refine that light. Then we give you full color grading controls on the inside and the outside. So maybe when that light is pointed at him, I just want to lift the shadows a bit in his clothing, but keep a nice crisp black point so that it doesn't look washed out. I can go in and say, that's really coming together nicely, but let's just do a touch more highlight recovery. And that affected the inside of the circle. On the outside of the circle, I could say, I really want those shadows to pop. So let's bring the black point down, but lift the shadows a little bit. And I'm going to cool those shadows down or warm them up. And you can see how we could shift the color temperature. And there, I actually like the warmth because it matches the light from the outside. So the shadows are a bit warmer and they feel correct for the scene. So you have full color grading here that you don't normally get. Other tools might give you the basics with the vignette, but we have all of these here, and you still have your finishing tools. So your finishing tools are what other people use to develop. We let you use these as a final pass. So if you want to finesse the overall balance of shadow or tone or contrast, you can do so. And just look at that. When you're done, save a preset. And you can store that wherever you want. You can make your own setting. You can store it in a folder, etc. I'm going to also show you something that's cool. You could just copy and then select another image and paste and dial that in. And in this case, I like where it's going, but the vignette's way too strong because of that black background. So here's what's awesome. You also have a blend slider on the vignette itself. So you could tone that down. And if you want to reset a slider, you could turn it off or just double click it and it resets. So I'm going to tone down the color shift that was going on there. And you see that that's really simple. There we go. And I'm just finessing that. And I like where that's going. And I'm just going to back that off just a bit. And now we have the change and the transformation to that image as well with the same film stock. Now, Let's say you're working on an image and you really want to adjust a landscape. We could do this too. So, for example, here was the original, here's the new one. Well, some of the things that are really cool is we do have lots of truly useful presets. So you can go in and find those, and we offer many different extensions in our website where people can access those in the marketplace. Right now, also, most of our customers have taken advantage of our first year's access for free to the Radiant Toolkit, which lets them pick a new preset or LUT pack every month from the Essentials collection. So I like where this is, but I want to take advantage of a little bit of color grading. Some of you might be familiar with a really popular and very awesome landscape photographer. I'm not talking about Elia, who's our CEO, and he's overseas in Japan shooting. In this case, I'm talking about Matt Kloskowski. And I really like some of his day into night presets here, for example. So in this case, it helped bring the scene a little bit more into night, but it's just a bit too strong. So I could back that off, find the right balance of it, and play with the overall contrast and intensity of color. So that was awesome to be able to dial that in. Then with the targeted adjustment here, I'm going to use a preset designed for landscape, like waterfront gradient. Now, what you're going to see here, and we'll tweak the colors on this here in a second, is I can control where this goes. So let's take the feather down. This gradient gives you 3 zones: top, middle, and bottom. There we go. And then what I can do is create a very gentle feather and blend it. So now on the top, I'm not going to shift the color temperature, but I'm going to just pull the exposure down a little bit and put a little bit more contrast in to bring out the clouds. And then looking at that, I can finesse the development. And I'm just going to take the color vibrance down a little bit at the top. On the bottom here, I'm going to actually lift up that exposure. And you see I've added some light to the bottom of the page. So this gives you the ability to fine tune that. And so you can actually separately adjust color at top and bottom independently. And let's do one last black and white example here. So I'm going to go in and just quickly take a look at the quick edit. Seems pretty good, but some harsh shadows. So I'm going to diffuse the light, but take up the depth to really improve the definition there of the railing. I love how this is feeling. Now, under the detailed edit, I feel pretty good about things. Maybe a little more color contrast on the sky, and just back that off. So now it's really starting to come to life. I'm seeing details in the wall that were missed, and that works nicely. By the way, you can use shortcuts now like K for color. C was already taken for crop. T for tone to close up those tools to make it easier to navigate. And I'm just going to put a little extra AI sharpening in. Now, let's switch on over to color grade. And we're going to take a look at some black and white looks really quick. So we have a lot of these different film stocks. And depending upon the style as you look, you'll find different recipes that emphasize different areas. Now, sometimes they're going to produce banding because they're targeting specific colors. So it's important you find the right recipe. Here, I'm loving this warm black and white, just a hint of color. And with that saturation slider, I can increase that. And the strength slider is going to combine the effect. And then we can finesse the contrast. I want a little less contrast here, so we have that great detail. Now, I'll use the graduated filter. I'm going to choose the linear one here and set my range. There we go. Let's take the feather down and just target the zones. You'll notice here how easy it is to see where the openings are. There we go. And put a little feather in. Now up top here, I want to put more contrast into the sky. And I'm just going to recover the highlights a bit and dial that in. And on the bottom of the floor here, I want to bring that out a bit more. Let's get really crisp blacks. Lift the shadows a bit. And again, we'll split tone the highlights versus white point here. And it really comes to life nicely. Plus, with those finishing tools, you're fine to globally tweak the image. Now, here's what's cool. I was able to get a great black and white conversion, but if I want to experiment, I'm free to do so. I can continue to click on different looks and notice it did not reset everything. All my adjustments are still there. That's because these color recipes are completely independent. And so some are better designed for different scenarios. And here we're working with a slightly compressed JPEG. But you can see that as I try out different recipes, many are going to optimize the areas we want. And so, for example, as we look at landscapes here, I like how this is targeting the blue sky and bringing it to life. And you can tweak your develop settings or your strength settings. Plus, J key now instantly brings up your clipping indicators. And here's one more little thing. If you decide to hide everything, you could press these and just take them out to the side very quickly. We now offer the ability to just really look at the image full screen. And you have your color grading slider here and your develop slider. So you can finesse the look and just blend it or increase it, as well as finesse your develop settings and dial it in until you get the target that you are going for. And you can see there that that becomes really easy to hit the target that you are aiming. So really nice and solid. So I hope you guys like those new improvements. Remember, with our standard workflow, we apply scene detection, choose from a smart preset list, and then give you those quick edit controls. Then in the detailed edit tab, you can do tone, color, details, and portrait. And in our color grading tools, you've got a graduated filter to really fine tune things, the color grading section with the looks themselves, and finishing tools to do the final polish.